Hello and welcome back to Old Charles, the channel where we uncover the fascinating history and hidden value of coins from around the world. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the Canadian 1-cent coin from 1981, a small but iconic piece of Canada's rich numismatic history. If you've got one lying around, don't skip this video, because we'll be exploring its history, design, circulation, and value in different conditions. The Canadian 1-cent coin, commonly known as the penny, has been a staple of Canadian currency for over a century. The 1981 issue is part of a long-running series featuring the famous maple leaf twig design by George Kruger Gray. This reverse design has been used on Canadian pennies since 1937, symbolizing Canada's identity and pride in the maple leaf. On the obverse, or the front side of the coin, we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold McKim. This was the second official portrait of the Queen used on Canadian coins, showing her wearing a tiara. This portrait design was used from 1965 until 1989. In terms of mintage, the year 1981 saw an enormous production of over 1.2 billion coins, making it one of the highest mintage years for Canadian pennies. This was during a time when the penny was still widely used in everyday transactions across the country, long before its discontinuation in 2012. The 1981 Canadian penny was struck in bronze, consisting of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. It has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, a thickness of 1.65 millimeters, and weighs 2.5 grams. Because it was made of bronze, many of these coins today show discoloration, wear, or even corrosion, depending on how they were stored. Collectors look carefully at the condition, since pennies from this era were often kept in circulation for decades. In the early 1980s, a penny could actually buy you something in Canada, from candies at the corner store to helping make exact change on bus fares. While today it may not hold the same purchasing power, it represents a nostalgic reminder of Canada's economic history. Why 2012, the penny was officially retired from circulation, meaning the 1981 penny now exists only in collections, jars, and coin albums. So, what is a 1981 Canadian penny worth today? The answer depends heavily on condition. In circulated condition, which most coins from this year are found in, the value is usually 1 to 5 cents to collectors. In uncirculated or mint state condition, where the coin shows no wear and retains its original luster, the value can jump to around 50 cents to $2 CAD. Exceptional examples in high mint state grades, MS 65 and above, can sometimes fetch $10 to $20 CAD, especially if certified by a grading service. Because over a billion were minted, the 1981 penny is not considered rare, but high-grade examples are still sought after by collectors of Canadian small cents. For collectors, condition is everything. A 1981 penny that's been in circulation for decades may show scratches, worn maple leaves, and dull brown color. These are common and generally have low value. But coins stored in rolls, proof-like sets, or kept safely since 1981 may still have brilliant red luster. These high-quality coins are what collectors are willing to pay a premium for. If you happen to find one in near-perfect condition, it's worth considering professional grading to confirm its quality and maximize its value. So while most 1981 Canadian pennies are worth just a few cents, the true value lies in their history, nostalgia, and collectability. For many Canadians, the penny is more than just a coin, it's a symbol of everyday life, now frozen in time. To truly understand the importance of the 1981 Canadian 1-cent coin, we need to take a journey back through Canada's coinage history. The Canadian penny was first introduced in 1858, during the time when Canada was still a collection of British colonies. That very first 1-cent coin was much larger than today's penny and was made from pure copper. It was heavy, oversized, and not always practical for everyday use, but it marked the beginning of Canada's independent coinage. After Confederation in 1867, Canada slowly began standardizing its coinage. The 1-cent coin became smaller in 1920, switching from a large copper coin to the familiar small cent we know today. This change was driven by economic necessity. The cost of minting large copper coins had become too high, and a more practical size was needed for everyday transactions. By the 1930s, Canada embraced the iconic maple leaf twig design, created by the English artist George Kruger Gray. This design was simple, patriotic, and instantly recognizable, showing two maple leaves on a twig. It quickly became one of the most beloved designs in Canadian coinage, symbolizing strength, unity, and the natural beauty of Canada. Fast forward to the 1960s and 1970s, the penny was still a staple in Canadian pockets. On the obverse of the coin, or the heads side, we saw the image of Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting Canada's ties to the British monarchy. In 1965, the portrait by Arnold Machin was introduced, showing the young queen wearing a tiara. This is the same portrait that appeared on the 1981 penny. Now, let's place ourselves in 1981. The early 1980s were a time of change in Canada. The country was facing inflation, rising interest rates, and new challenges in its economy. Despite these challenges, pennies remained essential in everyday commerce. They were used for making exact change in grocery stores, paying for bus fares, or collecting in piggy banks across the nation. In fact, the Royal Canadian Mint produced over 1.2 billion pennies in 1981 alone, one of the highest mintages in Canadian history. Why so many? Because the population was growing, inflation was raising prices, and small change was in constant demand. The penny might seem insignificant today, but in 1981 it played a very real role in keeping Canada's economy moving smoothly. The 1981 penny was made of bronze, a mix of copper, tin, and zinc. Copper had long been the main material of Canadian pennies, but by the 1980s, the rising price of copper was already putting pressure on the mint. This would eventually lead to later pennies being struck in cheaper materials like zinc and steel. But in 1981, the classic bronze composition was still in use, making these coins feel heavier and more traditional than the later plated versions. Over the decades, pennies like the one from 1981 passed through countless Canadian hands. They were spent on candies, donated to charity boxes, tossed into fountains for wishes, and saved in jars. They became more than just money, they became a cultural symbol. For many Canadians, the penny was the first coin they held as a child, the first they saved, and the one they most often gave away as spare change. Finally, in 2012, the Canadian government announced the end of the penny. Rising production costs meant it was costing more than 1 cent to make each coin, and with inflation, the penny no longer had real purchasing power. The last Canadian penny was struck that year, marking the end of an era. This makes the 1981 penny part of a closed chapter in Canadian history. While it may not be rare in numbers, it represents the age when the penny was still an essential piece of everyday life, a time capsule of Canada's economy and society in the early 1980s. When it comes to the value of a 1981 Canadian 1-cent coin, one of the most important factors is condition. Because the Royal Canadian Mint produced over 1.2 billion pennies in 1981, these coins are not rare in numbers. Instead, what sets one coin apart from another is how well it has survived over the last 4 decades. Collectors use a detailed grading scale to measure condition, ranging from heavily worn coins to flawless, mint-state examples. Let's break down what this means for the 1981 penny. These are the pennies that spent decades in pockets, purses, and cash registers. The maple leaves on the reverse side are usually very worn, with the veins barely visible. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II's portrait may look smooth, with her facial details and tiara worn down. The coin may have scratches, dirt, or even corrosion due to moisture and improper storage. And this grade, the coin is generally worth only 1 cent to a few cents, mostly for its sentimental or copper metal value. At this level, the details are still visible, but there is clear wear. The maple leaves will have lost their sharpness, and the queen's hair and tiara show flattening. The coin may have dark brown or reddish coloring from oxidation. These coins are a bit more collectible, but still fairly common. Their value ranges around 5 to 10 cents here. The coin shows only slight wear. The lines in the maple leaves remain visible, and Queen Elizabeth's portrait has most of its detail intact. The luster, that natural shine from the mint, may still be partly visible. Collectors like coins in this condition, and they may fetch 10 to 25 cents in the marketplace. In this grade, the coin is very close to mint condition but shows tiny traces of wear, often on the highest points of the design, like the tips of the maple leaves or the queen's hair. These coins often look bright and attractive to the eye. Value can rise to 50 cents or more depending on eye appeal. Now we enter the level that collectors prize most, mint state coins. These are coins that never entered circulation, often saved straight from coin rolls, mint sets, or proof-like sets. And mint state, the 1981 penny retains its original red or red-brown luster, showing that brilliant copper shine. Collectors often divide these into subgrades, MS 60 to MS 62 ** uncirculated but may have many small marks or dull luster, as 63 to MS 64 ** average uncirculated with good eye appeal, as 65 to MS 66 ** high quality with few marks, sharp detail, and strong luster, mess. 67 and above ***, very rare, nearly perfect coins with outstanding eye appeal and blazing red color in mint state. Values can range from $1 to $20 cedi or more, with the very best examples commanding even higher premiums. Another major factor in penny grading is color. Copper and bronze coins like the 1981 penny are graded as red. **** retains nearly all of its original bright copper-red luster. Very desirable and more valuable. Red-brown, ***, a mix of original red and darker brown tones. Still attractive, but worth less than full red examples. Brown, ***, the coin has completely toned to dark brown, often from years of circulation. Common and least valuable, 1981 penny in MS-65 red condition can be worth several dollars, while the same coin in brown might only fetch cents. Many collectors also look at how well the coin was preserved. Pennies stored in damp places may show green corrosion called verdigris, which lowers value. Others may have scratches from being cleaned, which collectors consider damage. The best preserved 1981 pennies often come from original mint rolls, proof-like sets, or albums where they were protected from the environment. So, the condition of your 1981 penny truly makes the difference. A dark, worn penny may only be worth face value, but a brilliant, untouched red example can be a small treasure for collectors. Condition is the language of coin collecting, and for the 1981 Canadian cent, it tells the story of whether your coin is just change or a collectible worth holding on to.